So it's the last day of our expedition. We're here in Cairo, 6,300 miles covered, 18 countries visited, 2 continents crossed, and we never made it to our destination, the territory of Bir Tawil on the Egypt-Sudan border. We actually never got the permits to enter, and we're back here in Cairo without completing and without reaching the destination of the expedition.
But what more fitting way to end an expedition into no man's land than by never making it into our final no man's land? I mean, after all, this has never been an expedition that's been about trying to slavishly get to somewhere. We designed it in such a way that we were passing through multiple spaces that have been called no man's land in the past. And we've been meeting extraordinary people along the way, whether they be the young people of Cyprus, whether they be artists in northern France, film directors in places like Sarajevo, or members of the Ababda community here. And I think really what we've attempted to do in this expedition is to say that expeditions don't need to be about getting somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's the whole idea of an expedition in the 21st century. I think expeditions with their problematic imperial past need to reinvent themselves. And that's what we were trying to do over the past month. It wasn't about the destination. It was never about actually finding that elusive site called no man's land. But rather it was about the people who inhabit these places, who live in them or around them. It was about the ecologies that surround these sites, the forests, the rivers, and the oftentimes ruined and dilapidated landscapes that make up no man's lands in the present. It's an expedition that looks to people, that looks to natural environments. It's not an expedition, it's not a journey that is about staking a claim to a place. It's not the heroic conquest of the destination.
Absolutely.
Nearing the end of our time in the south of Egypt, the No Man's Land team was heading south towards Bir Tawil. Having woken at 5 a.m. to make the 350-kilometre journey, the Land Rover was packed and the team headed along the Aswan Dam to the road that would take them there.
So we're basically heading on the road leading from Aswan to the south, on the eastern bank of the Nile and Lake Nasser. From there, we're going to head as far south as we can. Hopefully we can get to Bir Tawil. It's about 400k south. The road should take us all the way down to the Alaki research station. And from there, it's just open desert. But at the moment, we don't even know how far this road will take us, primarily because we don't have a permit to go.
As we pulled over to talk with our guide, however, our trip south was going to be much shorter than we could have expected.
Pulling us over in a rubbish-strewn
past a police checkpoint, but there's an army checkpoint coming up which is going to tell us to go back or to stop us or to make us some fuss, take the number plates. So what do you like to do?
Better not risk it, right. I wonder. Sure. No?
But this is the road, khalas. This is what...
You thought we'd be stopped there?
Before that checkpoint, even. I thought we'd be stopped like way ahead, because it's just into the desert, this road.
So that checkpoint is not usually there?
No, this is a police checkpoint, like sort of traffic police.
Right.
It has nothing to do
with the army.
With the army, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is one checkpoint, and we have another one coming up. These guys told me if you guys have a military permit, you can pass through the other one. If you don't...
Is that the Marsa Alam military permit?
This is the new road that either takes you to Marsa Alam, or there's a junction, or you take it down to Wadi Allai and the Protectorate and so on.
Or not continue.
And that was it. Our journey to Bir Tawil was over, as Alasdair and Noam summed up.
Okay.
So this is it.
This is it.
It's the last place.
This is as far as...
A pretty unglamorous spot to finish on.
Yeah, but
But kind of
we're not about...
We're between a police checkpoint and a military checkpoint.
Exactly.
We're not going any further than here.
Well,
There's flies.
and flies.
Okay, we're done.
Yalla.
We're going home.
So what went wrong that prevented us from actually reaching Bir Tawil? Was it the complex bureaucracy that we never managed to fully negotiate? Was it maybe the tense security situation that seems to be plaguing the entire Middle East? Or maybe it wasn't meant to be that we're actually gonna get to Bir Tawil. But having said that, we didn't waste 10 days. We made
Absolutely.
an incredible
Yeah.
10 days here in Egypt.
Yeah, and in truth, it was probably all of those things contributing in one way or another to the fact that we never got permissions to go. But as you say, we did have an extraordinary time here. And in a way, what we sought to do, I think, when we couldn't get permission was to try and access a no man's land in another kind of way. If we couldn't get there physically, then we could get there perhaps by talking to people who did have some experience of it and who had some kind of claim to it. So we left Cairo, 6 or 7 days ago. We travelled to the south. We travelled down the Red Sea coast and we visited members of the Ababda community. We even had an Ababda guide working with us. And he took us to various villages along the way and we spoke to people from the Ababda community. And they're really important to this story because after all, it was the Ababda community for whom Bir Tawil was originally created, between 1898 and 1901, when the British were drawing the maps of that region. They used it as seasonal grazing ground, and many of them still have a kind of generational recollection of that space as being important to them and to their families and to their forebears. It hasn't been used for a long time, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have given up the right to use that space in the future if they need to.
One of the things that really struck me when we were spending time in the eastern desert in the south part of Egypt was a surprising discovery that we made while we were there. The immense operation of clandestine gold exploration. Small groups of diggers just going out into the desert on these Toyota pickup trucks with diggers and shovels. And it's truly the Wild East.
Absolutely.
And what we've seen in the aerial photographs that we were able to retrieve was that Bir Tawil, that no man's land we were heading toward, is also a site of exploration, of clandestine gold digging. We don't know exactly the nature of that. Is it Egyptians or perhaps Sudanese who are coming into Bir Tawil to explore potential for gold? But that's incredibly interesting to realize the sort of underground economies that are at play in contemporary no man's lands.
And we don't know who has been doing this gold digging in Bir Tawil, but we know at least one response to that gold digging, which has been the Ababda community in the south, in the eastern desert, met as a tribal council and have increasingly parcelled up the land in the eastern desert. They've given areas of responsibility to different tribal groups within the broader umbrella of the Ababda. The fascinating thing is that nobody knows the exact lines of this, but every single person or every single community knows their section. And so there's a kind of an amazing collective knowledge increasingly of the eastern desert and the way it's being administered by the Ababda themselves.
You know, one of the most important moments of this entire expedition happened yesterday. We were really fortunate to be shown around the Egypt Geographical Society here in Cairo. And this building, which was built in the 1880s, a remarkable gem of historical archives, an immense map collection, and a huge collection of artifacts, was really an apt moment to conclude our journey because we started, of course, at the Royal Geographical Society in London, and we end at the Egypt Geographical Society here in Cairo, and that was the whole idea of the entire expedition. It wasn't about staking a claim to a territory. It wasn't about big discoveries and heroics of the explorers, but rather it was a process of rediscovering no man's land as a research object.
And it reminded me of when we were sitting in the RGS archives several months ago, looking through those incredible maps that they have there of Egypt, Upper and Lower Egypt. We were looking for the cartographic appearance of Bir Tawil on the map of Africa, and to see then the 13,000 maps that the Egyptian Geographical Society has, just for me, acted as a really nice conclusion to this journey, which started in an archive, which started looking at maps and trying to understand how certain places evolve and develop. And we finished in exactly the same way. And now we're sitting in the gardens of this extraordinary palace that was built for the European guests who came to the opening of the Suez Canal during the 1880s. It strikes me as the kind of befitting end to an expedition that was all about a little bit of exploration, a lot of discovery, and certainly a lot of geography.
Yeah, I think what really struck me yesterday about the Egyptian Geographical Society is the way that no man's lands leave a paper trail. There's always this archive that maintains and preserves the presence of these sites.
Yeah.
A long history. We've been looking at 1,000 years of no man's land. We started in England at the village of no man's land, and we were heading to Bir Tawil, but this is an enormous history of a concept, of a site, of a space, and of the people that negotiate it and make it, remake it, and perhaps sometimes make it disappear. So I think I'm really fascinated to see where this paper trail is going to lead us in the future. And I think there's a very long trail to follow here.
Yeah, I think that neatly sums up what we've done. This has been an exploration of paper and of people, and not actually necessarily about us getting to particular places. And I think if that's the nature of the kind of expedition we've been doing, then it seems appropriate that that's the way that we access no man's lands in the 21st century.